What's up, and welcome to another episode of the Grindline Podcast. This is episode 59, and I am here tonight with Ryan and Tyler. And guess how happy we all are?
Gloria, Gloria.
I couldn't ask for a more perfect night. I will say that.
Yeah, Tyler got to see live in person all the very upset Bruins fans. Because if you all didn't know already, Tyler lives in Boston.
Yeah.
So I'm surprised his house isn't on fire or that the city's not on fire. But it had to have been pretty dangerous.
No, I would say people were just like more like kind of like the players, like more like sad. It was like kind of weird to see. Like there was no mad. I guess on the radio today a little bit people were like kind of pissed, but like at the place that I was at, it was just like an old school theater. People were like just like this. Like,
they were assuming Michigan posed.
Was it kind of like the 2009 loss for Detroit fans?
Yeah. But I don't think as much because, we had 3 cups at that point. And Boston, I mean, that would – like, think about it. If Boston would have won that game, you have Bergeron and Chara and Marchand and all – like, that whole core would have had 2 Stanley Cups. 2 Stanley Cups solidifies you as, something that people will remember. I mean, one, you can fall into one like Carolina did in 2006.
Oh, it was fantastic. We were at the local World of Beer establishment here in the Canton, Michigan region, and there was a couple Bruins fans that were there, and the first goal was the demoralizer. But to hear them slowly get more and more quiet as the night went on, and I think the one guy was actually crying, and he just started drinking heavily. Then we had some random old guys that rode into the restaurant on bikes that started drinking by us that were apparently Blues fans or just really happy the Blues were winning. So it was a joyous occasion, and it was just overall a great series, to be quite honest. I'm very happy with how it played out, though.
All things aside, like, I'm obviously not a Bruins guy, but like, I love the league as a whole. So like, I'll watch no matter what. And just I love the whole storylines with the Blues. They had Layla
That's
Anderson.
amazing.
Yep, that's amazing. You have Patrick Maroon who comes back, on a really short-term deal, and he wins the Stanley Cup in his home city. You have the team that was literally the worst team in the NHL January 3rd, and they end up winning the Stanley Cup.
Behind a rookie goalie called up in January.
Exactly, behind a rookie goalie. And, like, I mean, people here say that they don't have any superstars. I mean, Tarasenko, I would argue, and Ryan O'Reilly, I would argue, but like
they do. Those are superstars. And then you got Pietrangelo on the back end.
Outside of it, though, I think Boston was more talented, and I think that's what hurts people in Boston the most. That they feel like one slept away from them, kind of like we did in 2009.
I mean, they also had Barclay, the hockey dog, who was a very good boy and should get his name on the Stanley Cup.
I saw somebody post today that it would be a crime if the dog didn't get to eat out of the cup.
I love the jersey, Greg. I have to say.
Yep, got my my Blues jersey on. But I
How
think it was
old is that thing?
This is a CCM Blues jersey. Pretty old.
So that's like 05, 06, maybe even before that?
No, Reebok was around already by that point.
Oh,
yeah,
so
this is
like
before
03,
that.
04 then.
Yeah.
Early 2000s. It was just, I mean, Binnington played out of his mind in that game. Mm-hmm. It was amazing. Rask faltered a little bit. And as soon as he let in like the second goal, people on Twitter exploded, yelling for him to be traded and that he blew it for them and that it's all his fault. And then you go back and you look, Rask got quite a few Conn Smythe votes in either second or third place. And he was good that entire series. Binnington had worse numbers than him, but Binnington played well when I think it mattered the most.
Yeah.
And Binnington stole 75% of that game for St. Louis.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
I think it was they ended the first period with 4 shots on net and only 2.
Wasn't it 2 shots on 2 goals?
Well, 2 shots on 4 goals.
2 goals on
2 goals on 4
shots. Yeah, but they only had 2 scoring chances. It was 2 goals on 2 scoring chances.
I remember at one point that early in the second, the shots were 20-8.
Yeah, it was bad, but Binnington basically took that game for them, and that's kind of what you need a clutch goalie to do is steal that game and just don't let anything in. and they said it would have taken the perfect shot to go past him that night, and Boston ended up getting one, and that goal, there was no way that wasn't going in.
That was a snipe.
But
It's like a mixed knuckle puck slash. I don't even think he intended to hit the puck the way that he did for it to go in.
No, absolutely not. But it was a snipe, and it just like the way it looked.
Tyler, by the way, how's your dad? Is he okay after that?
Yeah, he's all right. I mean, he knows that they got outplayed. I mean, he knows that they got outplayed. Like, he even said Binnington played out of his mind in Game 7. And, like, even though the Bruins had their opportunities, they didn't score when it mattered. And they didn't, the first line wasn't going for them. That Pasternak, where did he go? Marchand, he wasn't there, thankfully.
Oh, no, you know where Marchand went? He went to the bench. He went to go change with 8 seconds left in the game.
Bravo.
Or 8 seconds left in the period.
On the video last night, by the way.
Bad.
There were some fantastic ones going out, and the one that you were able to throw out there can definitely be added to the top of the list.
The one from this morning?
Was it this morning that you did that?
Well, my Gwen Stefani mashup?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, that was from this morning. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, with Portnoy getting hit on the head with a towel.
Yep, that was
is the best. But it was it was a pretty interesting game. It was great. We all love to see Boston lose. I don't think anyone except for maybe 2 people that I saw on Twitter outside of Boston were rooting for Boston.
Yeah, not too many.
And to see the Blues get their first ever Stanley Cup, it's just a super special thing. And something you're not really, if you witness a team get their first ever cup, it's not really something you forget. So
right. I'll tell you what would have been super special if the weather cooperated, because they would have sold out the ballpark and the freaking hockey arena. But they were only in like the covered up spots in the ballpark because it was pouring rain out.
Yeah.
Still though, they had a good showing. That they had to have had what? How many actually were at Busch Stadium? Was there a count?
28 or 29,000 or something like that.
So it's still 10,000 more than the Enterprise Center.
Yeah.
Damn, that's impressive.
They killed it.
It was awesome to watch. Their fan base. I mean, it's like most Wings fans of our generation not getting to see that cup until '97. So, and then all of our parents for pretty much the most part of their life. So, I mean, in a way, a lot of Wings fans can relate to how that went for them with that 97 Cup. So, pretty sweet, I thought.
Yeah, I think with the Blues going forward, too, I think they're going to be still a good team going forward. Maybe not the Stanley Cup champions again next year. However, the Bruins, I think the window is closed. I'm sorry. I really do. I think Char's long in the tooth. I think Bergeron slowed down a little bit. Marchand's getting a little bit up there, and he's not that old. Krejci didn't produce at all. And, I mean, they do got some young guys, but, I mean, so did we. And we lost Datsuk and Zetterberg, and that was kind of the end of it. So, I mean, I think
what's going to happen with Torrey Krug?
And that's the other thing. He's a free agent coming next year, right?
Yeah, and most of their main guys are under contract for one more year.
I see them, and I see Chicago. I remember Chicago winning that third Stanley Cup, not to bring up bad memories. But I see them, and I see the Bruins in the same kind of situation, although they do have McAvoy and some younger defensemen. So maybe I am a little wrong there, but I think they're getting close to that window closing, though.
Yeah, but the big thing,
already closed.
McAvoy, I'm looking at cap friendly. McAvoy and Carlo are both restricted free agents going into this offseason. And then you've got Grzelcyk and Connor Clifton both going to be restricted. They're hitting the RFA status next season after this coming season. So, but pretty much all of their main guys, so their whole defense, with the exception of John Moore, is a free agent after the coming season.
Yeah, that's
so
tough.
And like to your point, Greg, the Krug saga, if he's going to re-sign, there's been far more rumors than I expected about him coming to Detroit. Wasn't it even mentioned last night too?
Pierre said it yesterday.
Did he?
That if Boston doesn't sign Krug, that Detroit will. And I mean, Pierre, I even quoted it and said Pierre eats paint chips because he's got the least reliable source in the entire league. And I don't trust anything he says. But, I mean, there's a good chance that Torrey Krug could come to Detroit. He's, 28, 27?
28.
And, and he's a Michigan guy. He played pretty much out of his mind in the playoffs, too. And I wouldn't mind it, but again, we're trying to get younger. We are a post today I saw from Cat Friendly. We are the second oldest team in the league right
Barely.
now by
Barely the
0.1
second.
years behind by 0.1 years behind Minnesota.
How?
So
That's what I don't
29.4 average
29
age.
29.4 is our average age.
Now does that include guys like Vanek and stuff like that? Like
Probably.
guys
That
free
includes
agent?
anyone on the roster.
They're still technically on the roster until July
technically
1.
until July 1. Okay, all right, that makes sense. So after July 1, our roster gets younger. And I think that's what Steve Yzerman kind of said today already.
Yeah. So speaking of that, we're going to talk a little bit about the Steve Yzerman press conference. Today, we're also going to talk about Max Bultman's latest article with a few scenarios he threw out on what the Red Wings could do during the offseason. But we'll start with Yzerman. He had about a 20-minute press conference today from Little Caesars Arena. He went over a few things like buyouts and trades and pending free agents. And there were some things we pulled out that I thought were a little bit interesting. When he was asked about buyouts, if you guys didn't know, the buyout window is the 15th, opens on that Saturday or this coming Saturday. And he was asked if there would be any buyouts. And he basically alluded to the fact that he's not really thinking about buying anyone out at this moment. That we thought maybe Eriksson would be a candidate, or someone, not Abdelkader and not Nielsen, because they're signed for far too long and it would hurt the cap too much.
Mm-hmm.
But Eriksson's got a year left. Daly's got a year left. They could have bought one of them out, taken that extra hit for another year, since we really don't need all the cap space right now anyways. But it looks like Yzerman is not going to do that, which I understand, but I think you need the spots more than you need the cap.
Yeah, and what's interesting about that too, when you watch the presser, how quickly and like kind of under the radar the answer was to that, because you didn't really hear the question come. I think it was Helene St. James that asked it if he was going to do it, and he's like, at this point, no, basically. So there's hope. I guess you can take a little bit of hope out of that, but unless it's going to be a guy on your back end, there really is no point for them to do it at all.
Yeah, I mean, I guess at this point you just kind of let it ride out with Eriksson and those guys for one more year, and then that'll be the end of it.
On the flip side of it, he was asked about pending UFAs like Luke Witkowski and Vanek. He said he has been in touch with Witkowski, but wouldn't go any further. He has not been in touch with Tomek Vanek. They have not spoken.
Mm-hmm.
I think we can all pretty much assume that Vanek is gone and Zadina's going to probably take his place.
I would guess that Vanek might even be retired. I was listening to Elliot Friedman's podcast, and he kind of said something about Thomas Vanek and the only fit that he could find, and he couldn't even find a specific team that he would be a part of, but he said basically at this point of his career, he's more of a power play specialist, and that's pretty much it. So if you can find a third line team that needs a power play specialist, but here's the thing with Vanek, I don't think he's going to take short money. I think he's going to want not a lot of money, because he can't command a lot of money, but he can't command 2.5 to be a power play specialist somewhere. Well, that's probably what it's going to cost, though. And if not, then he's probably going to retire. That would be my guess.
The only way I see him fitting in anywhere is if he's going to be a depth guy on a team that can make a run.
That's what I mean.
That's it.
I think the upsetting part to me was the Witkowski comments. Now, he could be in touch with Witkowski's camp, telling them, listen, we're not going to have you back, because it doesn't say which way the conversations were going, whether he'd be coming back or not. But if Witkowski stays and you keep him in that 7D role, that's almost guaranteeing that Eriksson gets ice time, which is kind of what we're trying to stay away from. If you want,
if Kronwall's not signed.
Well, that's the other part of it. At this point, Yzerman made it very clear today that the ball's in Kronwall's court. If he wants to come back, there's a spot for him.
Yep.
He basically said that he's asked him to come back. He's giving him time. He's not giving him a deadline of July 1st to make a decision. Mm-hmm. He said he's going to let him take as long as he wants. It could go into next season before Kronwall makes his decision. So I think that kind of ties the hands of the organization a little bit, unless they work around it, unless they have a plan to work around not knowing what Kronwall's going to do.
I kind of took it that way.
Yeah, that's the way I took it too.
Well, I don't see how you can give him an indefinite amount of time to make a decision when you have decisions to make.
Yeah, but he also made it sound like when July 1st comes around and granted, he didn't commit to saying that he was going to go all in at free agency, but he said that what Cronwall does or does not do by that point would not impact what Yzerman will do when it comes to signing potential players that fit what he wants to have there.
I get that. It kind of worries me when you're waiting and waiting and waiting on someone to make a decision. I feel like you have to wait on that person to make other decisions around them.
Yeah. But I also think that if he does make some sort of move in regards to bringing in somebody, I don't think he's going to do it just to make a depth move. I think we've kind of beat the horse already on who we would love to see on the back end or if a trade were to come about, but I don't think it's going to be a move. He's not going to be signing some 5'6" defender to try to come on the team.
I will say one thing, listening to that Yzerman press conference, and I haven't listened to the entire thing. I think I got to like 15 minutes. I think it's about 25 minutes long. And the one thing that really stuck out to me, and obviously, I remember Yzerman playing. I remember watching him on TV and stuff. But until like 2006 or 7, I didn't have the NHL package. So I didn't get like all the media stuff and stuff like that. So I have no idea how he was like with the media unless it was the playoffs. So the way it strikes me, Ken Holland was a little bit more like straightforward, kind of tell you what he was going to do without really telling you what he was going to do. I think Yzerman's one of those guys that's not going to tell you either way. I think he's going to tell you, kind of what he's going to do. But I feel like at the end of the day, he's going to be one of those guys that's kind of going to do what he wants to do and not really tell anybody anything. That's the way it looks like to me. And that's the way it sounds, because even like it seemed like in a way he wanted to say, I'm not going to tell you, but obviously he wasn't going to do that because that was like his second or third time with the media. That's the way it looked like to me. I don't know about you guys.
He pretty much gave an answer like that to Helene at the very end. Did you catch that?
I did not. Like I said, I only got to
that's right. You didn't get to the end. So. No, she mentioned like the top 3 likely players getting picked up. And then she asked him what type of prospect he was going to get. He's like, we're going to get a good prospect, which he had said like 4 other times. I was kind of dumbfounded by some of the questions that they were asking him, to be quite honest.
He seems like the type of guy, obviously as a player, that he was kind of very well spoken, but at the same time he was like, not really the most energetic person in the world, like talking. I feel like he's going to be like that as a general manager, and I feel like he doesn't have to tell you anything if he doesn't want to, and no one's going to twist his arm to do so.
No, right? Not at all.
So
the other thing they talked about in the Yzerman interview was trading, and he basically made the point that they're not really going to make any trades to fill holes. Now, that doesn't mean they're not going to make any trades at all. That just means that they would rather fill the holes in the lineup through free agency, or they would rather fill the holes in the lineup with young talent. Now, they could trade off pieces for picks to open up spots. That is one thing that I think they would do, is try to stock picks even more, and then try to pick up someone through free agency or try to promote a kid. Now, that kind of also tips to me that they don't really have any interest in trading a bunch of pieces for Trouba, or they really don't have any interest in going after, like, taking on a contract of Ryan Callahan or anything like that. They would rather sit back, draft some players, develop their own, bring in the youth, and fill through free agency if there are any players that fit their needs.
Yeah, it's I don't know. I'm reading through the Detroit News, just the recap. They actually have it summed up pretty well, but it's very cryptic, I think, in a lot of the comments that he made so far, and it kind of went back to his initial press conference. Like, was it you, Greg? I think that I saw post the details of what a possible Trouba trade would look like.
Yeah, someone from The Athletic in Winnipeg kind of took a stab at what they thought a Trouba trade to Detroit would look like, which would center around Mike Green and probably 2 second-round picks.
Done.
Which I would do in 2 seconds.
Yep, done.
But again, that also wouldn't be, I guess, technically trading to fill a hole. That would be sending out a defenseman, getting in a younger, better defenseman, and just getting rid of a couple picks. Now, would I do that? Absolutely, in a heartbeat, because Winnipeg's not trading from a position of power currently. I mean, Trouba's going to be an RFA next season. They know he doesn't want to be there. They'll have to trade him, and when you have to trade someone, you really don't get value like you think you would, or necessarily like you would want. So I think Green in 2 seconds for Trouba. I think anyone in Detroit would do that in 2 seconds.
So in other words, it's not going to look anything like the Ryan McDonough contract then. Or
most
not
likely
contract,
not.
Trade. It wouldn't be a mirror image of that trade.
No, because and even he said in the comments, someone commented that Green in 2 seconds, there's no way they would do that. And he goes, I agree, but I would expect a Trouba trade to be underwhelming because of the position that Winnipeg is in, where they basically have to trade Trouba. So,
and they've got a lot of guys that they have to sign this coming season.
Yeah, who? Kyle Connor, Patrick Laine needs to be re-signed.
Laine. So here's their restricted guys: is Laine, Andrew Kopp, and Kyle Connor. Then unrestricted, they've got Brandon Tanev and Par Lindholm. Matt Hendricks is there, but he's 37. I doubt they bring him back.
No.
And then on defense, they've got Trouba, Nathan Boyu, Joe Morrow is restricted, and the unrestricted is Bogdan Kislevic.
Who the hell is that?
No idea. Ben Sherratt and Tyler Myers.
So, I don't know. They're in a mess. That's one team that I think their window is probably the most closed, because they're going to have to do something to restructure a bit, but because they're not going to get rid of Laine. Laine they have to lock up. He's their star player. They're not. Kopp is a good player. It's getting in Trouba
too. I mean,
yeah,
those three restricted guys are all, and Kopp's the only one that's arbitration eligible.
Yeah, so Trouba's agent is actually Dylan Larkin's agent. I learned that today.
Really?
Yeah, Craig Custance did a kind of interview where he laid some stuff out, but they got the same agent. I mean, Trouba's was he from Rochester?
Rochester Hills, I think.
Yeah, Trouba's from Michigan, and would it fit?
Metro Detroit, if you will.
Yeah, would it fit? Absolutely. It's just, what are you willing to give up to make it happen? And does Yzerman want to do that? And the answer, does Yzerman want to do that? Probably not. He doesn't want to make a big splash. He doesn't want to ruffle feathers. He doesn't want to just go make moves to make moves, and he's made that abundantly clear.
Yeah, but if something makes sense like that kind of trade and it's underwhelming, 2 seconds and Mike Green, I think he would pull the trigger on that.
See, what I think about this, I mean, what is Green making?
And the other thing is, Yzerman may say that and then turn around at the draft and go to the floor and, there's a trade for Trouba and Winnipeg comes to him with that. And he's like, of course, yeah, I'll do that.
Hell, maybe even Winnipeg they don't have a 3rd round pick this year or a 1st round pick. Give them this year's 2nd and a 3rd, and boom, done with Green. Do you do 2 picks this year?
I would do it in a heartbeat. I don't think they would do it. I think that's the thing.
Would they want a forward prospect as well?
I think they're good enough up front that they wouldn't need that.
Well, yeah. Brandon Tanev is going to walk in free agency. He's a pretty good little player.
Yeah. I think they're going to be hurting more in the back end than anything, especially for if they don't get all their guys re-signed to what they can deem as affordable. Because now their top paid defenseman's Bufflin at 7.6, and he's 34. But that's the problem with bringing in Green. Granted, it's only for 1 season. He's 33 and had some health issues the last 2 years.
I don't know what they're going to do. Yeah,
that's why we are sitting here being, pundits of bullshit while these guys are being paid to do it. So.
Yeah, exactly. We're not making any money, making trades or analyzing or playing armchair GM. But I think it'd be plain to see that I know Winnipeg's going to want more, but I don't think they'd be able to get more because of the position they're in. Now, the last thing that Yzerman talked about, and it wasn't the last thing canonically that he talked about, was the draft, where I know Ryan mentioned earlier that he said they're looking at about 6 guys right now at number 6.
Mm-hmm.
And they said they would be absolutely happy with any one of them and that they would make the team better in the long run. And he also said that he had not been approached to trade the 6th overall pick, and he has no intention of trading the 6th overall pick, whether that be up or down. So to all those people that wanted him to trade up so they can take Byram, he's not going to do it. For all those people that wanted him to trade down because the gap is so close between 6 and 10, he's not going to do it. The only way he might, what I think he might do is maybe package a couple of those seconds to move up back into the first round. But he has not thought about trading the 6th overall pick at all, and I don't think he should.
He shouldn't. I don't think he should. I know there's talk about trading back and moving down a little bit, but I don't think that'd be a wise choice. And I think that we can all safely assume that he wouldn't do that unless it was a home run deal. But there's no reason to. I don't think he would have. There's what he could get at 6, and from what we've talked about, there's a star in the making there, and you add that to what they already have, there's too much potential.
Now on draft day, if you're picking 6th and you're up there and Zegras is there and Caulfield is there, and you get a call from Edmonton, and Edmonton goes, holy shit, we want Podkolzin. He's still there. We're afraid Buffalo's gonna take him. We'll trade you our 8 for your 6, and we're gonna take Podkolzin, and we'll give you an extra second, or we'll give you, I don't know, this prospect and a 2nd round pick or whatever to move up so they get the player that they definitely want. And then 5 of your guys are still on the board. I probably make that deal, but I'm not dropping down to like 10 or 11 just because someone calls me with an offer. But if I need to drop 2 spots or 3 spots because all my guys are on the board and I get an offer that I can't refuse, I'm still pulling the trigger.
Yeah, I think the most you fall is 9 to Anaheim's spot.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
and
even there, even at 10, they're not going to be. It's not going to be an awful pick, but it's definitely going to be a drop off compared to what we've been seeing.
Yeah, I know. In this position of the rebuild, I don't know if you guys watched the draft special they had on Fox Sports Detroit.
I haven't had a chance to watch that yet.
That it's pretty good. They were talking about it, and basically they were saying from 6 to 10 is a drop off, obviously, but at 6, they pretty much like everybody that they've looked at, whether it be Zegras or whether it be Podkolzin or whether it be Caulfield or any of those guys, Turcotte. Those guys are guys that they want. So it doesn't matter whichever one, they're going to get a good player. It's just a matter of who it ends up being.
Yeah, and speaking of draft day, the Detroit Red Wings are having a draft party at Little Caesars Arena. It is absolutely free. If you go to their Facebook page or to their Twitter page, it is the pinned post, I believe, now, where you can go RSVP. You'll get an email saying thank you for RSVPing. They will have it in the arena on the big Jumbotron. They will have it outside, weather permitting, in the plaza there on the huge screen. They're going to have alumni in for autographs. They're doing locker room tours. If you haven't seen the Red Wings locker room, it's insane. I've been in it twice now. It's a pretty sweet locker room. But yeah, they're doing different shooting skill activities outside. If you've ever been to a non-game Red Wings event, like if you went to the Little Caesars Arena preview or a couple other things they've done, they put on a really good time when there's not a game going on.
Mm-hmm.
So there will be beer and food. Me and Ryan will be there, so you can come hang out with me and Ryan. You could buy us a beer. You'll find us wearing we will have our Grindline Podcast t-shirts. Come say hi, come get a picture with us. We'll put you up on Twitter. Tyler's extremely upset. I mean, Tyler, you can catch a Greyhound and come on down if you want.
No, I'll be there for the home opener, and I'll meet both of you guys. Well,
is your dad going to be here with his awesome back tattoos?
Oh, yeah, my dad will be there.
Nice.
So, yeah, me and Ryan will be at the draft party, so if you got nothing to do, it's free. Parking's even free in the Little Caesars garage, so, yeah, come on down.
Is the big thing having for RSVP into this so you actually get access to the parking garage?
I don't know. So they said RSVP, and I RSVP'd, and like 2 days went by and I didn't get an email. I RSVP'd again, didn't get an email. I did it a third time and then got an email. So I think what's going to eventually happen is they're going to send out probably next week an email that says you RSVP'd, click this link, and then it'll load tickets into your Ticketmaster app.
Yeah.
Because you can't get into the arena without tickets. They're not going to let people in without tickets.
Really? Didn't realize that.
I needed tickets when I went to do the Little Caesars preview. It was free, but you still had to go on and get tickets, so they had something to scan to let you in.
That makes sense. More controlled that way.
Yeah, so
I mean, obviously Chevy Plaza is going to be probably wide open, you'd think.
yeah,
As long
to
as
get
the
into
weather's
Chevy
good.
Plaza, you will just have to go through metal detectors.
Yeah.
But other than that, I think that to go in the building, they'll probably have to have you use a ticket. So they'll have to scan something. Go on RSVP, meet us down there. It's going to be a great time. We will be tweeting out where we're at. You can tweet to us and ask us where we're at. We'd love to meet all of you. It'll be a good time.
Hint,
So
wherever the beer is.
yeah, we'll be near the non-Bud Light beer. You'll find us near whatever craft stand they have out there or whatever. Or you'll find us hanging out with Darren McCarty probably.
He's supposed to be there.
Oh, he will be. He's at every Red Wings event. Moving on from the draft party, we are going to talk about Max Bultman, his article. If you guys don't have an athletic subscription, what the hell are you doing?
Do it.
This is the best time of year to get an athletic subscription because it's literally content after content after content between drafting and mock drafts and free agency and trades. This is the best time to have an athletic subscription because we have the best beat writers that do not bullshit. They don't say what the organization wants them to say. They're not paid by the organization or whatever to spit out predetermined lines. They tell it like it is. They give you such real life situations. Max is awesome. Craig is awesome. But Max put out an article recently that kind of went over a few scenarios on what the Red Wings could do going forward. Specifically, 3 different scenarios. One that was basically staying pat. One that was going full youth forward. And then one that was kind of taking on a contract plus assets from another team to put them in the lineup and kind of get a little bit on the back end for it. So I'm going to let Ryan go over the scenarios, and then me and Tyler will kind of go back and forth on them.
So scenario 1 is quoted from Max is called pure uncut patience. So basically with this scenario, it's what the first line of his first paragraph states is might have to be considered the most realistic scenario. Essentially what happens with this one is that the Wings pretty much look how they did last season, the one exception being that there's no Nick Cronwall. Other than that, the lineup is pretty much unchanged. Your top 3 forwards are Burt, Larkin, Mantha. The big change there is Vanek's gone, but you have Zadina in his place, kind of like what we talked about. To many, that would probably have a large Y look on their face or not. Anthony C is your 2 center. You got Glendenny and Hiroshi. A lot of this, it's a mainstay of what we just saw, which doesn't bode well, but it's what you can expect. So the biggest thing, though, on defense, I think, is that Chalowski is going to be on the roster again with Hronek up there because Cronwall's out. Erickson hopefully is your 7D. But the other thing that's kind of glaring about this one is there's no Oliver Kasky, the new Finnish signing. So this is the most realistic, I think, from what we've talked about over and over again.
Did you hear what Yzerman said about Kasky today?
That he would definitely like him on the lineup?
Yes, then that he's going to be given every opportunity to make the team.
That was actually also echoed by Blashill in his last interview with Art Regner for Red and White. Blashill did say he got to see Kasky quite a bit, and that he will get every chance to make the lineup in camp and preseason.
I love the person that asked him straight up, have you watched him play?
Yeah, you watch him play. You know those players that you signed? Did you ever watch him play? They ask some of the dumbest questions I've ever seen. I would have just been like, you know what? No, I've never seen him play. I liked his name. He spells Oliver with a W, so we signed him.
Yeah, the biggest thing to quote on that for Kasky is from Iserman. He's going to get a good opportunity.
There you go.
Yeah,
so
and he will.
Yeah, back to scenario 1 though. I mean, it's the no shit. Here's how things likely will go if nothing else happens.
Yeah, which is probably the most realistic scenario.
So I mean, I'm not upset about it. I mean, I like that the fact that you're going to have Zadina in there, Hirose stays around. I thought if he can continue, if he has a good offseason.
Wait, Witter's not in that lineup, right?
No,
Okay,
Witkowski.
good. Oh God. Okay, then I like it. It's great. Perfect.
And in this scenario, N is your extra forward. I mean, you look at the bottom, you got Rasmussen again stuck on the fourth line with De La Rose and Advocator in this scenario. But I mean, yeah, no Witkowski, no Cronwall, no Vanek. That's your big three that are excluded from here.
I like it. I'll take it. And it keeps us as a basement team again. We get another lottery pick next year and we just keep rolling.
And it keeps the cap simple.
Exactly. We don't overspend on anything.
There is no spending. There's no one new.
Exactly.
They're all restricted.
You can't overspend if you don't spend anything.
All right. There's your Warren Buffett tip of the
night. Next scenario.
So scenario 2, which has been kind of talked about quite a bit lately. I don't know if it's quite a bit, but it's take on a contract. And what Max suggests has been tossed around quite a bit, especially since Stevie came over. And I think even before that, but it would be a trade with Tampa Bay to take on the contract of Ryan Callahan, which he would be making $5.8 million, and it's in his final season of his contract. But along with that, because they're going to be taking on such a contract, because Tampa is one of those teams that's going to be in cap hell, they're also going to get, in this scenario, former second-round pick Taylor Radish to kind of complement. He's another forward that would be a depth signing restricted level for Detroit again. So that's the big change. But the other big change in regards to taking on that contract, this scenario too has them re-signing Nick Cronwall for a season, and he'd be at $4 million. So because of those two forward contracts you take on, you're losing your Zadina, you're losing Cholowski. Looks like those are going to be your mainstays of who you would like to see around. Oh, Hirosi's off the roster at this point. So this is a kind of worst case scenario to me, and that the guys that we would want to see playing on the Red Wings roster aren't going to be there because of what they take on. But you get a potential top or good forward down the line if they were to bring in a dude like Radish, for instance. But it's that one I think is the riskiest take if they were to go that route.
I like the middle one where like you get rid of some of the veterans, maybe bring in a free agent, and then the rest of the holes that you have, you plug in with youth. I think that's the most realistic. Well, maybe not the most realistic with the free agent, but I think that one where you kind of go half and half is the more realistic. I don't think they're taking on a contract at this point. I think the way Yzerman sounded today is the fact that, you know, he would like to see the youth in the lineup and to get younger. That's the way it looked like. But it also looked like he wanted to have a mixture of veterans as well, kind of like what Ken Holland was saying.
And I apologize. I think I said that Zadina wasn't on this roster. Zadina is on there.
Yeah.
No, you said Hirose wasn't on the roster.
Sorry, I couldn't remember.
I don't think there's any situation in which Zadina is not on the roster, unless
Me
it's
either.
an injury thing.
Yeah, and all the people that say, "Oh, he needs another year in Grand Rapids because he sucked," I apparently didn't watch him the 9 games he played for the Red Wings, and could clearly see that his development is better suited at the NHL level than it is at the AHL level.
No, absolutely. The way I thought with and without the puck, he was one of the better wings night to night in his 9 games.
I think that is, I agree with Tyler. That's the least likely option to happen. I believe that is the least likely course of action, because you're at that point, sure, wasting salary for a season. You're getting Taylor Radish, cool, but I don't think you leave Hirose out of the lineup. I can't see it happening.
A lot of bad would have to happen for the way Hirose finished and how his college season went for him to not make the roster next season.
What if Veleno outplays him in camp, though?
They're different positions.
Different positions.
It's-
well,
I mean,
Veleno's
Veleno at
outplaying
wing.
people. I think he's gonna be at center.
It's true, but they could play Veleno at wing to start.
I think so. Then you play Hirose on the third line. And you play Veleno on the second line.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, doesn't make sense.
So, I mean, or you play them on opposite wings on the third line.
Yeah, and then you put them between two kids in a goat line with Nielsen.
There you go. No, that's like two kids in a dead cow line.
Yeah, that's probably a little bit more accurate. Sorry, Brett Hall, didn't mean to taint your fantastic O2 line there.
Don't worry, he's drunk. He doesn't know.
He's still drunk. He's happy right now. Yeah.
Is he like an alcoholic? Or like,
he was freaking rubbing his nipples last night. Did you see that?
Yes.
Oh, Brett Hall.
I think Brett Hall was all of us last night.
This was the greatest.
He was Larry Murphy drunk last night. It was amazing. Let's move on. Let's go third option. What's the third option?
So third option, I think, is the most intriguing and could be the most fun, but also the most unlikely
and damaging.
Yeah, possibly. But this one is titled Scenario 3: Dip into free agent waters, but still promote the youth. So for this one, I'm actually going to read what his potential line pairings would be, and I'll first start on the fact that he actually does bring in a free agent signing, and that is Jonas Donskoy. Jonas Donskoy, tomato. I don't know. I'll learn it when if he actually comes here. But so could be a mild impact player. He was out in San Jose. He's had some highlight reel goals while he's been out there. The type of guy that could come into Detroit and help them offensively because, well, they need it. But with him coming on, so Max predicts this type of roster with him there. Like it said, the second part of this quote or the scenario is promote the youth. So you have Burt, Larkin, Mantha as your first line. He's got a second line, Anthony Siu at left wing, Franz Nielsen at center, which is terrifying to everyone on a second line center. But here's the fun one is Philip Zadina at right wing. The third line is here where things get interesting. Elite scorer Darren Helm is on your left wing. Joe Veleno, Mr. Rookie at center, and Jonas Donskoy at right wing. And he's got him predicted at a $3.3 million salary hit. And then your fourth line contains Rasmussen, Glendening, and De La Rose, with your extra forward in this situation being Justin Advocator. So really, I mean, with that forward group, I wouldn't be too upset about it.
No, me either.
Wouldn't be upset, but I mean, again, it's an unlikely scenario.
Absolutely. It's more of an NHL 19 where you pray that you just get rid of these guys that you don't like in real life and then just hope that something good will happen with all the rookies in your lineup. But and then anyways, for the defense, though, so here's where it gets more fun. You got DeKaiser, Hronek, your first line. Chalowski, Green, your second line. So it's really your likely top four for this season. And then your third defensive pairing, Trevor Daley and Oliver Kasky, with Madison Bowie as your 7D.
I'd swap Daley and Bowie, but yeah, Ericsson's gone, Cronwall's gone, Witkowski's gone.
Vanek's gone.
Gone.
But the biggest one, and I think if this happened, I'd probably cry tears of happiness.
Buying season tickets.
I mean, that's expensive.
Don't get crazy now.
That's very expensive, so you go right ahead. But yeah, no Eriksson. That'd be fantastic.
Oh yeah, it would. Absolutely.
But the one thing he mentions as a part of this one is that he's talking about these guys, youth players coming in the roster. He did note that you'd think Svechnikov would be there, but I really like what Max said about him is that because of his ACL injury, it's cautious projecting him out of the gate, and sending him to Grand Rapids would be the most wise decision because, for one, he's 22 years old. If he looks good, then maybe he will make the roster, but you got to see where his condition is going to be at before you can really do anything with that. So I really like what Max had to say there.
Well, the ACL thing isn't what it used to be either. You know, you can recover from that fairly easily nowadays.
Yeah, but I mean, in a way, it's almost like it's a soccer player in a sense, or a basketball player. They're running and stopping, and they're going hard on that knee. So I don't know.
That's true. Gordon Hayward's probably never going to be the same after that injury. So
that's the most fun scenario, I would say.
yeah, I agree.
Me too. I mean, I do it just to watch it because I think it'd be the best one to watch. But again, I think option one, where we kind of just stand pat, get rid of maybe a couple people, bring in, play Chalowski full time. That's probably the most accepted scenario. And then I think Eiserman's press conference today kind of bolsters that a bit.
I think you guys are sleeping on Eiserman a little bit. I think he's Detroit, the Red Wings, and just the franchise, and even the fan base deserves a good hockey trade.
Yeah, but what are they going to make a good
What are they going to do?
One that makes sense, of course. But
when you're saying a good hockey trade, are we talking like a Hall for Larson trade, or are you talking like a Ryan O'Reilly gets picked up to St. Louis trade?
Well, that kind of trade, but I mean, I don't know if that trade's there to be had. But I mean, even getting Trouba from Winnipeg would be a hockey trade for me, depending on what you have to give up.
If it went for something like what we talked about, that's a hockey trade.
Yeah,
but the biggest thing to me is that if he makes that trade is made, and Trouba's signing a deal,
he better sign a deal.
I mean, I'm not making a trade unless Trouba says he's signing. So
yeah, there's no way. I mean, you got to think. I mean, especially with Larkin being having the same agent, and I'm sure they're probably friends because all these Michigan boys seem to be friends. Maybe he does take on that team friendly type deal, if you want to call it that. Put the air quotes around it, if you will. But if he were to sign, if it was traded, would he be eligible for 8 years if it was before July 1st?
No, it has to be before the previous season's trade deadline.
Got it. So you're signing Jake. If it's 7 years at $8 million, do you do it?
No, I think that's too much for him. I don't think he's a number one defenseman. I think he's maybe a good number 2 or 3.
No, they've said every actual analyst that I've seen has said that Trouba's your 1D at that point.
You think he's a 1 though? Like on a really good team?
We're not a really good team.
No. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, what's his ceiling? Is he a 1 or is he?
When you're not a really good team, you sometimes have to pay more to get people to come to your team.
I think 6 is where I would draw the line. 6.5 would be pushing it.
No, I think you're giving him.
There's no way that you can get him for that type of money.
Yeah, you're giving him 7 to 8. I think most teams are giving him 7 to 8.
That's a lot.
But if you think about it, the cap goes up every year.
That is good.
In 2 years, they're restructuring a TV deal. The cap will go up even more. So,
which hopefully NBC gets away from hockey and we have somebody else.
They won't. There's no one else. ESPN's not going to pick it back up.
You don't think they do a joint venture type thing like the NFL?
I think they might. I could see that.
I don't think so.
I think they need to if they want to grow the game in the United States.
I don't know if it's.
I just think they need to fire their. If NBC fired their entire announcement team besides Doc and Eddie Olczyk, I mean that's what they have to do. They have to fire their Mike Milbury needs to go. Pierre needs to go. I can't anymore. Milbury infuriates me now. Like people were saying Charles Barkley was on Game 7. They're like, oh my God, please replace Mike Milbury with Charles Barkley, because Charles Barkley made some great comparisons between like basketball and hockey, and made some good points. And they're like, geez, just move Mike Milbury, just push him off the set and let Barkley sit down, please.
I'd be good with that. So have you guys seen the stuff going? This is going in line with Trouba right now. Have you seen the contract projections that have been posted out there? I forget, it's who is Evolving Wild. That's who posted it. What do you think they've got Trouba and Laine going for their current projection in term?
For their next contracts?
Yeah, their projected cap hit based off their model.
If Laine re-signs with Winnipeg, I would guess he'd be between 9.5 and 10.
Surprisingly, their model shows him at 7.2.
No way in hell. Not after his first season.
8-year deal at 7.9.
I would say 8 times 8 does it for Laine.
Probably.
Yeah.
They're projecting if Trouba's going to get an 8-year re-sign deal, 8.3.
Oof.
But they're putting him more around the 5-6 year deal at 7.3. I would not be surprised to see Trouba get something like that or a little more.
Yeah, I think Wings would have to do 7x8 or 7x7.5 if they were to sign Trouba.
I'd be okay with that.
But
So-
if you're losing Green's contract, you're paying $2 million extra. If you're not bringing back Cronwall back, there's a couple million right there. Your money is fine.
Well, I guess, Greg, you made a good point. I think it was on a podcast before where you basically said, well, you're not going anywhere this year anyways. So then what's the benefit of getting Trouba in here now versus waiting a year and then signing him for nothing?
Yeah, but he's an RFA still.
Oh, that's a good that's a good point. Oh, yeah, that's right.
So if the trade can be made now, you want to do it because if he gets jettisoned during the season, then you're screwed. But you lose that extra year if you were to try to wait and get him during the season or something like that because that team could get him for 8 years probably.
Yep.
They've been looking to him for a long time. I wouldn't be surprised if the trigger's pulled on that.
Have they been looking at him or has it just been the rumor because he's a Michigan guy?
It's the same thing with Torrey Krug. It's a rumor because he's a Michigan guy.
Well, I don't know. Friedman brought it up on his podcast, and those insider guys aren't just going to bring that up to bring it up because they think that there's a fit there. They're plugged in. They have something on it. Either they've spoken to someone in the organization that likes the player, or they're spitballing, or they've heard from their sources. I mean, those guys are plugged in. So if there's a source, not Pierre Maguire, but somebody saying that Trouba could possibly end up in Detroit, then I mean, I would believe that source.
I take it all with a grain of salt after what happened with Suter and Parise.
So, that's upsetting still.
You had to bring that up, didn't you?
Yeah. So that's everything is a grain of salt until something actually happens. And Bob McKenzie tweets that it happened. Bob is one of the only people that I still almost trust with 100% certainty is Bob. So we're running out of time. So I think we're going to do our final thoughts and then we'll wrap this up here. And we will start with you, Ryan. Final thoughts.
So final thoughts are congrats to the St. Louis Blues, Layla, and the city. I mean, they've had some recent success with the Cardinals, but it was fantastic to see pretty much everyone come against Boston in support of them because nobody cares about Boston. If you do, well, you probably live in Boston. But other than that, I like the comments that Yzerman had to say today. I think it was very cryptic, but at the same time, it's what he's kind of maintained since the first press conference. And I still think there's plenty of room for cautious optimism of what may or may not happen in the next 2 to 3 weeks with the draft and free agency. So I've probably said it about 1,000 times. It's exciting. And I think it's only going to get better, even though it's going to be still painful for another year or two.
Yeah, my final thoughts are congrats on winning the Stanley Cup to the city of St. Louis and the Blues. I'm really looking forward to the draft next Friday night. We've got people coming over my house. My neighbor's coming over. There's a Red Wings fan. Me and my dad are going to be watching it, even though my dad's a Bruins fan. He wants the Wings to get back to promise and being a good team again. So I'm looking forward to the draft. I can't wait. Hopefully there's a trade or two to spice things up a little bit. Maybe even, hey, who knows, maybe even an offer sheet at some point there.
Awesome. Well, my final thoughts are going to be, since Ryan didn't give you Twitter, it's at RDRyan33, and Tyler didn't give you Twitter, it's at SealDog91.
Thanks, Greg.
My final thoughts are kind of the same. Congrats to the Blues. I mean, well deserved. Go get drunk. You deserve it. It's be patient, be optimistic. Don't get pissed off when stuff doesn't happen. I think I've said this all before. Yzerman does things under the cover of night. He might surprise us, but if he doesn't knock your socks off, there's a reason that he's not doing it. So don't get mad if he's not giving stuff away just to make some flashy moves. You can follow me online at Bringing the Wing. You can follow the Grindline Podcast online at Grindline Pod. You can find us on iTunes, on Spotify, on Stitcher, on Podbean. You can find our merch at redbubble.com. If you search the Grindline and go to our shop, we have a whole bunch of really cool stuff there for you to buy. It helps us support our podcast. We only get a small proceed of it, but every penny counts. So for
Capitalism.
Tyler,